Welcome back to Throwback Thursday. This week we're doing season 4, episode 6 of The Walking Dead, titled Live Bait, which originally aired on November 17th, 2013. My God. And I will have to say that this episode, I like it a little bit more than the last episode, which is surprising because this episode's lower rated than the last episode. For some reason, everyone loved the whole prison infected and Herschel being on his own. I think it's mostly for the scenes of Carl and Rick destroying walkers outside, and more than anything to do with Herschel inside, because that was a badass scene when the gates came down. That was awesome. So I got to give it that credit right there. But the main outline of the story, I like this one more, even though there's nothing really happening here. So we ended off with the last episode with seeing that the governor is looking at the prison, and I guess everyone was anticipating the governor striking again at the prison. After what happened last time we saw him prior to that, which was him killing everybody that was with him that was going to the prison at Woodbury. But that's where we start off. We start off with the dead bodies on the road, and we see the governor and Caesar and the other guy. His name is Schumpert, I believe, but I didn't know that was his name last season. Anyway, they get in the car and they drive off, and then we see a little bit of what happened in that time period after, he killed those people, which is that he was basically just disoriented, just blank. There was nothing going on in his head. He was just gone. He was totally lost after what happened. And his men that were next to him were just gave up on him, because he seemed like to give up on life himself. So one morning he wakes up and they're gone. They just left him. They left him by himself. They could have killed him, but they didn't. They just left him. And then he's just sitting there and he's looking around. And he just starts going right back to Woodbury, and he sets the whole town on fire. He destroys everything that was left over there. I was like, I guess maybe he would have went back and killed people if they were there. I would assume that's what would happen, because he went right for the gates. He just drove through it. So yeah, he's just crazed now. He's even more crazed, it seems, and he's just on his own. And we just see the time that went by. He's walking down now. He's got a full beard. He looks emaciated. He's walking around, and then he sees these signs on this building that says what does it say? Come home, Brian Harriet. Don't come home, Brian Harriet. We're not home, Brian Harriet. We love you, Brian Harriet. It's just all these different things that I guess they wanted somebody that they cared about. They would try to tell them, warn them, yeah, we're here. No, we're not here. Don't come here. Don't go. Don't go home. So yeah, forget it. It's gone. It's over. So he ends up taking that name, as we're going to see later on, as he ends up in a building. He goes to sleep inside this building, and there's a family there, and that's where we're introduced to Tara, who's going to be a regular on the series later on, but we didn't know that. Tara Chamberlain, and we meet her sister Lily Chamberlain and her niece Megan Chamberlain. They hold the gun as he walks in, and then he gives up his weapon, and we discovered that they've been in there since the shit hit the fan. And we also discovered that their father's there, who looks like he's terminally ill of cancer, and we're going to discover later on that he's on he has stage 4 lung cancer. And this is the only thing I have to say, and I'm like, wait a second. They've been in here since the shit hit the fan. The shit hit the fan 4 years ago, right? And this guy's they've been able to survive in just their apartment with whatever supplies they've had for over 4 years. Doesn't quite make sense to me, especially with how they don't give you that many oxygen tanks in advance. I don't know. I was just and they haven't really gone out anywhere because they don't know how to kill these things, and they don't know how they turn. They know nothing. They've just been boarded up in this apartment, so that didn't make much sense. Anyway, they don't really trust the governor. The governor says his name is Brian Harriet. They end up telling him he could sleep in the room across the hall, their apartment, because that one, those people left. They hear noises upstairs. He sees that, besides them having a father, they have Megan, who's a little girl who reminds him of his daughter, or will remind him of his daughter. And he ends up going to sleep in the room, or eating a can of tuna or cat food. I don't know what he was eating, which also 4 years. That canned food does not survive that long. And we're going to go to season 6, and we just totally believe, oh yeah, there are going to be parts where they're looking for Jesus, right? And Jesus stole their truck with canned foods. And we're just 7 years, maybe some, I don't know many, unless they're those survival packages foods, but regular canned foods, no, but whatever. he hears a knock on the door, and we see that it's Lily, and Lily brings him a bowl of SpaghettiOs, and he's just looking at it, and she's like, you got to eat something. You must be tired, blah, blah, blah. So then he takes it, and he dumps it out, which, again, I don't know how they managed to make this, because the gas would have been turned off. I don't know. But he ends up just throwing out the SpaghettiO out the window, and he eats his tuna. That's why he looks so, emaciated, because he's not been really eating anything. And I will say, it's remarkable how much of a difference he does look like, so like a different person. And in this episode, you kind of start feeling for the governor, surprisingly enough. After we know everything that happened to him, we know that he was sick and weird and twisted in season 3. It's remarkable how the actor manages with, especially this script, there's nothing really here. So like after this, he ends up going there. He starts becoming friendly with Tara and them. And, Tara tells him that she used to be a cop, but she doesn't seem like she was a cop. You could tell like she's kind of bullshitting. And the governor's looking at her and the things she does and says and how she has the gun. He's like, this is bullshit. And she kind of does pound it. She's adorable, and she was very, very beautiful. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. I think she had a baby along this series, like in real life. And then she gained weight. And I believe I heard that they killed her in the last season I watched, which was I watched the last episode Rick was in. I hear that in that last season that she dies, that they put her head on a pike. Spoiler, so I haven't seen it. The last episode I saw, as I said, was Rick getting taken off in the helicopter. That was it. And I didn't even watch the episodes prior to that, so I don't know what the relationship was with everyone hating him because of Negan. I know it was a time jump, whatever, blah. But the last episode I saw was him being taken away because the show sucked for me. And it's going to be hard getting to that part. But anyway, this episode, he sees that the father or the father of Lily and Tara are playing with like some game or whatever, and then they need help taking the father into the bed. So the governor goes, picks him up, carries him, puts him in the bed, and the father asks him, like, listen, you hear that? There's footsteps upstairs. They're walkers or whatever they think. But the father says, look, the guy upstairs, I lent him like whatever game, and I really want to show my granddaughter how to play this game on a real board. Could you do it for me? And I don't know what else he offered him. I forget. Or if he didn't offer him anything, he just asked him man to man, can you do it for me? And he ends up going up there, the governor, reluctantly. So he starts being like a good person again. And that's one of the things, like you see him wanting to do good and wanting to care for these people, which is another like instinct. Like we don't know what happened to him prior. That's the one thing I dislike also about this episode. I think this is the first time we actually stopped and focused on a totally different character from our main group of people and see what they went through in a short time period. Because we didn't even get to see that with Michonne and Andrea. Like we didn't see what happened to them in that time period when they were gone. So this is the first time we do that. And instead they just show us what happened to the governor once he goes crazy and kills everybody for Woodbury and then goes to the town, destroys it until around the time where he's going to end up at the prison again. Like this is the first time we do this. Instead why didn't we just go back and see what actually made this guy this crazy in the first place that made him distrust the government and everything. And even when they did Fear the Walking Dead, they did not do a good enough job to make me, the government was shit. And those people that were in charge were shit, the military. But they didn't do anything as terrible as why people would turn into people like the governor. But whatever. I wanted to see more, but we didn't get to see more, but that's okay. Maybe we will in the future with somebody like Negan, but I doubt it. At least we'll get something. I know what happened to him in the comics, Negan's character. So, but anyway, and his wife. I don't know if we get to see it in the show, but anyway, we don't get to know anything about the governor. Plus, the governor was much worse in the comics, and very short time period the governor was involved in the comics. They extended his career or his lifespan in the show, technically. So he goes upstairs, gets the game board for Megan and the grandfather, and we see a cool walker with almost no face. That's actually kind of like hinting or foreshadowing what's going to happen later on. He goes down, he gives it to him, he says, thanks, blah, blah, blah. Lily's, look, you can see like Lily's falling for this governor, or Brian Harriet. She's like liking him. And that's when Lily comes up with another favor. And she says, my father has stage 4 cancer and he's not going to make it soon. And his oxygen is running out. There's a hospital or something, a nursing home not that far from here. Do you think you can go and get a tank if you can possibly? Tara can't go because she sucks. She's not really a cop, basically. Like, they don't really say that yet. I don't believe they say yet. They say later on where she's like, I'm not really a cop. I was training. I was going to join the academy. I was in the academy, but I never got to make it yet. But I was going to. I was like, yeah, you could tell by your whole stance and everything. Like, you're pretending to be. But anyway, so Brian Harriet goes. I like to call him Brian Horatio. Brian Harriet goes to the... to this old age home or whatever it is to try to get it, and it has walkers inside. It was pretty cool. You would think he would be a little bit smarter to try to like lure all the walkers out. Remember how Andrea got him, like, she was that badass scene where she's like at a door and then they're all like I forgot what happened, but she's like cornered at the door and he's like, you got nowhere to go, and he like, she goes behind the door or some shit, and then all the walkers like, Rah! They come out and then she's standing there, you can see her face in the glass. That was badass. He managed to escape that, right? So you would think he would manage some way to get the walkers all out so he get more than one tank, but no. He fights or whatever he can, gets one tank, I believe, rushes back to the house and just throws it to Lily. Like, get out, look, I almost died because of you. I'm supposed to not take care about people anymore. Here, take this, bitch. Anyway, so then he's kind of like, he's got a cut from falling. She goes there and she's like wounding up his injuries. And you could tell these two are falling in love. Like, if there was any music that could be played, it would be Al Green as they're just staring at each other. And then all of a sudden, Megan comes in and she's like, give me a pinky promise. And he's like, what's that? I don't know what that is. Even though I had a daughter, I'm just pretending here. I don't know. But he's getting like, I don't know what the fuck his relationship, she's like reminding him so much of his little girl. So he's just like a weird fuck. And then he's like, I'm going to take care of you, whatever. Well, they ends up playing with them, playing with Megan chess, I believe, and he's teaching her how to play chess. And then she makes the king, and then she puts a little patcher on his eye and says, just like you, or whatever. And then he's looking like, oh, I love you. Oh, you're adorable. Then her grandfather dies, and they're like, say goodbye to your grandpa, whatever. So they go in the room, and Tara's there, and Tara's like sitting there crying. And then he's looking, he's like, shit, he died, like how long ago? And he's like, already he knows that the grandfather's gonna turn, and they're like, they just don't understand anything. So all of a sudden, the father's eyes open, and he starts grabbing Tara, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's alive!" No, and he's like, ah! And fucking governor goes crazy, but he's there to protect everybody, you know, especially Megan. He grabs the oxygen tank, he just starts smashing the father's face in, kind of like what the walker upstairs looked like, you see, with no face. He's just destroying it, and they're like, oh my God, ow! I guess he tells them later on, because he's burying the grandfather later on outside. He tells Lily, like, look, when you die, you just turn. It doesn't matter. And because he tells Lily earlier, because they shot the walkers upstairs, but they didn't kill him. They didn't go down. They told him that my daughter tried, but they won't go down. So governor told Lily, like, you got to shoot him in the head. She goes, why? And he's just like, that's just how it is. That's the way they go down. So again, remember, nobody knows that if you die, you turn yet. Especially not these idiots that somehow, again, have managed to stay alive for 4 years inside this apartment without anything at all. They would have ran through supplies so fast. Anyway, Tara is sitting there shocked in her apartment as the governor returns and Lily from burying their grandfather or the father. And she's like, I know, you know, and I think this is where she confesses that she wasn't really a cop or whatever. And she goes, it's my fault. It's okay. Blah, 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 blah. Pound it. And he's like, he's accepting of her as a part of his family now. He's accepted these people as his family. They're his people now. So he feels for them losing this man, and you know, and then he looks at Megan and she's scared to death of the governor. She wants nothing to do with him. But anyway, the governor has a picture of his wife and his kids, and he starts burning it. And he's like, he's leaving that old life behind. He wants nothing to do with that anymore. And he's gonna leave. And he's like, I want nothing to do with my old life. I want nothing to do with these people. He's about to leave. And then Lily convinces him not to, and that they need his help and to stay and to help them or whatever. So he decides to, okay. So he's going off with them the next day. They're traveling to try to find some new place to stay, and because it wasn't safe in their old apartment. And that's when one night the governor gets laid. That's right. She decides to give it to him. next to her sister and her daughter in the back of the fucking van that they're driving away in. And it was like, oh, okay. Next day, Tara's driving, the car runs out of gas or something, or they got a flat. I don't know, some shit happens, and the governor sees that there are walkers approaching them, and they got nowhere to go, they gotta run. So they start running, and then stupid Megan drops a bag or something, and she's frozen because she's never been outside, and then the governor goes, he grabs her. Remember, she's supposed to be scared of the governor still. He grabs her, or she runs to him. She runs to him because he's like, come, come, come. So she runs to him and he's like, oh, thank God, I love you too. And then they start running, all of them together. Tara injures herself. She's hobbling along and they're running. And then somehow the governor gets away from them. He falls and they fall into a ditch, and he's with Megan together, and there are walkers in there, and the governor kills the walkers off single-handedly in front of Megan, watching that the governor go crazy and barbaric to try to save his daughter, because Megan's now his daughter. And then he kills them all, and then he grabs her, he goes, I will never let anything happen to you. And she goes, you promise? He goes, I promise. I love you. I'm going to protect you, whatever. And then all of a sudden you look, doom, there's Caesar up top holding a gun. He's like, oh my God. He supposedly killed the other walkers. I guess he saved Tara and Lily as well. We don't know yet, but we'll find out next episode that I think that they're okay. So that was this episode in a nutshell. And altogether, what did I think about it? I like this one better than the last one. More is going on. We're seeing like a shift of a character that we disliked, and we saw how he changed and how these people, well, he changed first off on his own. He went to a deeper, darker place than ever before, but then these people brought back some sort of humanity that we had not seen in the governor since prior to being first introduced to him in Woodbury. The only time we ever noticed anything about the governor was that he was shady, mysterious, and that he was a freaking weirdo that had heads in his a room full of fish tanks with heads in it. Most likely people that fucked him and his family over and got his daughter killed. And then his zombie daughter that he was keeping because he thought there was going to be a cure, like Herschel with the barn. So, okay. But they kind of somehow, with all that, and with what he did to Maggie, and what he did to Andrea, and what he did to Michonne, with all that, they somehow bring a little bit of humanity out of him in this episode. Good acting, I will say. Yeah. And I don't know. Tara was annoying, and she'll get a little bit more annoying as the show goes on, and less annoying, I think. But yeah, she was beautiful, man. She was skinny, beautiful, young. Like, she's got to be like 22 in this. I'm surprised. And then who they ended up her with, I forgot who was her girlfriend. Was it the girl from Nurse Jackie that she gets the arrow in the head? Was that her girlfriend at one point? I don't even remember anything about Tara's character arc after that girl gets killed. So I don't know what happens to Tara. Anyway, I like Tara for later on. I think when her and Glenn have like a friendship, I like her then. Did she go? Yeah, she went with that kid that did this. No, did she? Yeah, with the women in the tribe that were in the water, right? They were like I forgot. I know she left with that kid. His name wasn't Herschel. He was black. He ended up doing the 24 show. Anyway, he left the show. He disappeared, and it was the Tara episode. That was one of the worst episodes, I will say. She found the village full of women that were just, fishermen or whatever. Anyway, I guess that's the last time I liked Tara, actually. Yeah, this episode I like. That's what I'm gonna say. I like this episode. I'm looking forward to the next one. Anyway, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about this episode. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you like Throwback Thursday at all? Should I end it? Yeah. If you did like this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.